Hi everyone. Today I'm going to be doing the compatibility chart between Demi Moore and Ashton Kutcher. And my next video after these two will be between Adam Levine and Bahati Prinsloo. So if you're interested in hearing about more Synastry charts, hit the subscribe button and stay in the loop. Now between these two, I want to say that there's a lot of instances in their chart that indicates cheating and disloyalty. I really don't know why they stayed together as long as they did, because there's a lot of planetary aspects as well that are just very challenging, and there's a lot of friction between these two. Now, I'm a very big fan of the luminaries. The sun and the moon, one of the most important parts of a compatibility chart. Now, his moon in Aquarius squares her moon in Taurus 2 degrees. Moon squaring moon is one of my least favorite moon aspects because there's a lot of friction, and they each express their emotions differently. They have different temperaments, and there's a differences of opinions regarding the family and their emotions. And since she's a moon in Taurus, she can be stubborn emotionally. And his moon in Aquarius, there can be a coldness or a distance, not all of the time, but it does show up. So moon squaring moon to me is just not a great indicator of long-term happiness. You would have to have a lot of backups to negate this aspect, and they don't. And this square between their moons is at 2 degrees, so that's really tight for an orb in the planetary department. But I'm going to get to the asteroids now. His Jupiter conjuncts her Hera, 0 degrees. Hera is the Greek goddess of women and marriage, and she was married to Zeus, the prolific cheater who had a lot of affairs, and she ultimately took revenge on him for his infidelity. So his Jupiter conjuncting her Hera, Jupiter, the largest planet in the solar system, and it magnifies whatever it touches. So there was the cheating aspect. Now, they don't have any Zeus-Hera connections, but his Zeus trines her Mercury, 1 degree. Mercury, the talking and thinking planet. So there was talk of cheating, and she probably thought that he cheated on her, but didn't realize it till the very end due to some Neptune placements in this chart as well. Now, how did they get together? With all of these planetary aspects that signify differences in temperament, and like I said, the moon squaring the moon, they rub each other the wrong way. Well, his Venus trines her Mars, and that has to do with sexual attraction. Also, his Sappho conjuncts her point of fortune, 2 degrees. And the point of fortune is like a mini Jupiter. It magnifies whatever it touches. And Sappho has to do with highbrow eroticism. So there's a lot of sexual attraction in the beginning between Demi and Ashton. Her Magellan asteroid conjuncts his sun, 2 degrees. This also indicates a spellbinding magical effect that she had on him because it's conjuncting his sun, a very important luminary, like I said, in a compatibility chart. His Caputo and Nemesis conjuncts her Demetria asteroid, 1 degree. Demetria, that's a PNA, and it was her given birth name. Demi is short for Demetria. So now we have his Caputo, which has to do with like a false sort of love, like an infatuation, and it's holding hands with Nemesis, and Nemesis has to do with an enemy-like energy. So he became her enemy in the end. The energies of that are signified in the rest of the chart. His Sphinx conjuncts her Lilith, 0 degrees. You can't get tighter than that. And it's in the 7th house. The 7th house represents long-term relationships and marriage. Now, his Fink, which has to do with infidelity, conjuncting her Lilith. Lilith has to do with sexuality. So right there, he cheated on her. His Swindle, which also has to do with infidelity and cheating, it conjuncts her Ascendant, 2 degrees. The Ascendant, a very important angle in a compatibility chart, as well as the Descendant, the IC, and the Midheaven. His Tristan, Uranus, conjuncts her Sun and Venus, 2 degrees, in the 5th house. Tristan also has to do with infidelity. I always, whenever I do a chart, I look to see if there's Tristan and Isolde coupled together, because those two are another story of infidelity and leaving. Tristan left Isolde for someone else. I think that's how the story went. There was another woman involved in their relationship. So Tristan and Isolde represents love triangles. So going back to his Tristan conjuncting her Sun, there's infidelity involved here. And Uranus conjuncting her Sun, that represents an instability and sudden instances where things will pop up, because Uranus has those energies. It's also conjuncting her Venus. That's the planet of love. Her Tristan, Mercury and Neptune, conjuncts his vertex, 0 degrees, in the 8th house. And the 8th house has to do with sex. So she cheated as well, but the way that infidelity happened was due to the fact of their threesome. She wrote in her book she went along with his desire to have a threesome in the bedroom. Mercury conjuncting his vertex, yes, there was talk about this, and she went along with it. Neptune has to do with fogginess and illusions and deception. So that explains perfectly the energies of having infidelity through threesomes, because she didn't want to do it. She went along with it because she said in her book that it made her, she went along with it because she wanted to be, hip and cool, and she wanted to please him. His Isolde and Blow conjuncts her midheaven, 3 degrees and 1 degree. So I explained before about Isolde, which has to do with a love triangle. It conjuncts her midheaven, which is what the public ends up seeing. It doesn't happen behind the scenes. Of course, their sexual infidelities did, but it eventually came out in the open, and the whole world saw it. Was plastered over all of the magazines. Blow has to do with failures and mistakes. So he blew it through his cheating. And I don't know how many times this happened. I would guarantee that there was probably more than one infidelity on his part. He just didn't, none of the other ones came out in the open, but the one did. His Neptune conjuncts her Poseidon and Asmodeus. His Neptune is in the 7th house. Like I said before, that rules marriages and long-term relationships, and it's conjuncting her Poseidon. That has to do with cheating, and Asmodeus has to do with the demon of lust. So again, Neptune, fogginess, deception, and illusion. All of these together are one big cheating and unhappy package wrapped up in a bow, with a bow. Now, his Nessus conjuncts her Dionysus, 1 degree. I normally don't do 2 asteroids together, but in this chart, it made sense to me because Nessus has to do with abuse, and it's conjuncting her Dionysus, which has to do with drinking and partying and alcohol. So she went back to drinking during this relationship because of the abuse that happened between the two of them. Now, her Medea in the seventh house conjuncts his north node in the fifth house, 3 degrees. Medea has to do with revenge. Now, Hera, who was married to Zeus, took revenge on him for his infidelities, and Demi did the same thing by writing her book. The North Node is another important part of a compatibility chart because it will signify the theme of the relationship for you eventually. So she got revenge on him through writing her book. Now, her Apophis conjuncts his descendant, 3 degrees, and Neptune. So she destroyed the illusion of this relationship, and she destroyed all of the deception and the infidelities, and everything came out in the open because Apophis has to do with extreme destruction. Conjuncting his descendant, another important angle in a compatibility chart. His Pan conjuncts her moon, 3 degrees. This is, to me, an automatic fail because Pan has to do with partying, drinking. And I mean, if you're with somebody and you're on the same page, then this wouldn't bother you. But she was in a sober mode when they got together. And ultimately, the drinking and the partying became part of the demise of this relationship. Her Chiron and Jupiter conjuncts his Apophis. So she brought a lot of pain into this relationship through the destruction of his actions that she didn't agree with, and it brought a lot of pain, and Jupiter's there as well. So it magnified this whole situation. Now, I'm going to get to the planetary aspects because there's some really important aspects between the planets that coincide with all of this cheating. His Uranus squares her Mars, 2 degrees. This has to do with sexual problems. In the beginning, the intimacy is exciting and new, but over time, the Uranus person, which indicates him, can look for excitement in the sex department elsewhere, and that's exactly what happened. Now, if you have Uranus squaring Mars in your compatibility chart, it doesn't necessarily mean that there is going to be cheating. You would have to look at the whole picture or the complete aspects in the chart. But in this case, it does indicate cheating, and like I said before, he wanted a threesome, and Uranus squaring Mars explains it perfectly. And it's at 2 degrees, which is tight. His moon squares her sun, and her sun squares his moon. 2 degrees and 0 degrees. That's really tight orb for planetary aspects. And this indicates different temperaments, and the sun can be bossy and resulting in the moon becoming very moody. And this is a double whammy because they both have this aspect between the two of them mirroring each other. So it's just not a good aspect to have when you have a lot of squares between your luminaries and Venus, and if there's Neptune involved in your chart as well, that can indicate deception and fogginess, rose-colored glasses. And they do have a Neptune. They have it in with the asteroids, but his Neptune is also squaring her ascendant, 4 degrees. So this also means that he is deceptive towards her and confusing at the same time, and evasive. His sun squares her sun, 0 degrees. You cannot get tighter than that orb. And this is the energies of sun squaring sun is like a person coming home and the wife has all the lights on in the house, and the husband says, "Why are all the lights on in this house?" and goes around every room, turns off all the lights. Or one of the one of the people will stay up really late and want to watch TV or play music, and the other person wants to go to sleep and is annoyed by the habits on a daily basis of the other person and how they um, live in the house. So that's just a few examples. Another example would be like if you, I don't know if you remember the show The Odd Couple, but it was Unger and Felix or whatever their names are. I don't remember, but one was really a super neat freak and the other one was just messy and disordered. So that is another good example of sun squaring sun. His sun opposes her Mars 4 degrees, and that has to do with power struggles and ego clashes. So that's all I have on this. I could go on, but you get the picture. And I will be back soon. And like I said, hit the subscribe button for more Synastry charts. And have a nice day.